Brodes Media.
This team is on my mind 24/7. Obviously, if you can't tell, go look back at our upload schedule. Birds. It's the only thing I can think about. And it's very unfortunate because this team ruins my life when they're failing, and oh boy, are they failing. Now I'm trying to figure out what's best for this last game of the season against New York. And I hear debates all around this town about how it might potentially snow, how there might be a big rainstorm, how we can't trust MetLife Stadium and that horrible field. Let's just punt the final game of the season and hope that things change for the playoffs. Huh? What? No! They do not deserve that luxury, okay? No, that's a luxury item. In what universe does this core get a little free pass on the final week? I don't care if anything can happen to certain play. Like, things can happen, yes. I don't care that an injury risk is real because they're playing a football game. That can happen at any point, anytime. You have been such a disaster that you have to go out there and try and get things to click, whether the Giants blow or not. And that's the counter argument. If they annihilate the New York Giants, what's the response? The Giants blow. Yeah, you're probably right. I'll be saying that, no doubt. I'll tell you right now, up front and center, that would probably be my opening statements on a post-game pod, right? And if they barely squeeze by, what's the reaction? Dude, they can't even legitimately beat the Giants. They are horrendous. They suck. They're pathetic. And I'll be up front and center. If that's the case, that's exactly how I'm going to open my post-game pod. But it shouldn't be based off of what my reaction is. The Eagles should not be making decisions on personnel and snap counts and what players they dress in a final game because of what Brodes is going to say on YouTube and WIP. No, what it's about is getting right and actually feeling some sort of confidence about yourself because you are so down in the dumps. Let's get some rhythm. Let's see if there's something maybe you can get out of this to feel good heading into whatever team you might see in that first round. And quite frankly, we have no idea what's going to happen with the Dallas Cowboys in that final game. It's not in AT&T Stadium, so that does open up the door for something bonkers and weird to happen. Not that that changes really the trajectory of what I think this Eagles team can do, but once again, that's irrelevant. I don't believe it would be smart to punt a final game when you've been trying to get right for weeks. For weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And I know it probably won't happen anyway. There's nothing that's going to change my opinion on who they are, but that doesn't mean that you give away this opportunity. Every snap matters. Every play matters. Every drive matters. Every single detail, according to Nick Sirianni, detail. He's the one that's saying it like that. If all of that is true, and that's one of your core values and one of your beliefs, that you have to be a very detailed team, and if you don't establish that, you will look miserable, then right now, based off of their play, you have to trot them out there. You have to find ways, if you can. Devontae Smith, let's see what he can do from a physical standpoint based off of the injury that happened against the Cardinals. You cannot waste any opportunity to be detailed because you haven't done it to this point. Now, if you did it for 15 games, then it's totally different. You have a big enough of a sample size for me to trust who you are. I can believe your identity is a detailed football team. It is the exact opposite, and I don't trust them. I don't trust them at all. So you have to give it every single chance you can to try and squeeze out the details. That's the way I look at it, and I don't think that there's any other way that makes a lot of sense. And you know what pisses me off with this organization? And this is even a front office thing, all right? I'll even take some jabs upstairs. Why is it that whenever this team is hot and this team is rolling and this team has a chance, they are legitimately the top of the league Super Bowl contender? But when it falls apart, it's ugly. It is so gross. It's so bad. They don't just have anything normal. And even if you want to go back to Nick Sirianni's first year, where they went 9-8, you could look at the record and think that that was somewhat of an even year. But because of the expectations heading into it, here's Jalen Hurts, who's a starter. Here's Nick Sirianni, a first-year head coach. For you to have a 9-8 season and actually make the playoffs, that was you riding an extreme high at the time due to the fact that nobody really expected it. You know, it came out of nowhere, and you had the wonky first press conference, and nobody really knew about the personality of Sirianni. Can you take this guy seriously? Is he a clown? Does he know what he's doing? Does it relate to the locker room? Do these pro athletes buy in? And that particular season, it was an extreme high because we had no idea what to expect. And then the following season, you get an MVP year. You go to the Super Bowl. You were mowing teams down left and right. There was never any competition. It's an extreme high. When things fall apart, like Doug Peterson, after the year they won the Super Bowl, there were messages from players, and they were like, dude, this roster is even better than last year's. And what happens? They start out slow, and then they win 5 of their first 12. They're 5-7. Then they go on an extreme high, and they finish 9-7. These were some of the seasons under Doug Peterson. Why is it so toxic when it does run its course? And it's pretty bizarre that it's to this level. And I think that does stem from Howie Roseman. I think Howie Roseman isn't the greatest people person in the world. We saw his relationship fizzle a tad with Zach Ertz. We saw that when it's time for him to make a certain decision, and no matter who the other person is, like, he does have a my way or the highway type of deal, which I don't mind a general manager doing that. You need to do what's best for the organization. You have to think about the interest at mind here for the Eagles, and if that upsets someone's feelings or if that hurts someone's feelings, so be it. I'm sorry. At the same time, there's enough history now to see it flop so badly. I got to imagine that there's a correlation between that and what I'm expressing to you all. Now, that doesn't mean I don't want him here. I like Howie Roseman. I think he does a lot of good things. So I heard this stat on the WIP morning show. It was James Seltzer, and this was maybe 2 days ago, and I've been sitting on it. 30% of Super Bowl losers don't make the playoffs the following year. 30% of Super Bowl losers don't make the playoffs the next year. Knowing that, having the knowledge of that statistic, does that change the way you view this football team? And my answer is easy. No. Because that gives Nick Sirianni a free pass. Schematically speaking, they're flawed. If they were losing differently, and I believed in what the coaches were teaching, and I believed in the routes that the receivers were running, and I thought their concepts were strong and can work, they're just beaten down because of a deep Super Bowl run last year, then that's different. And I don't think that that compares to the fatigue that I was just talking about. I look at it completely different. So, no, I don't, because there's things that are out of that side of it that's going on here. The only reason why they were failing was because of that, then fine. But there are real, legitimate, fundamental issues that you have control over that you aren't fixing.